Hi everyone, my name is Olivia. I'm a stay-at-home mom to 3 kiddos. I homeschool a 10-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl, and I also have a 4-month-old daughter as well. I share homeschool videos, I share lifestyle videos. Today I'm here to share with you a curriculum that didn't work for me. I love insights into all sorts of curriculum and what does and doesn't work for other families. I know what a bummer it is when a curriculum doesn't work because there's a lot of time that goes into researching curriculum in the first place, and then implementing it into your family takes a lot of time, and then there's the money aspect of spending money on something and it not working. If I share something that you guys absolutely love, I think that that's great that it works for you, and that's all we could ask for as homeschooling mamas, is to find something that clicks and it just fits so well. And if that means it's something that I mentioned that just didn't work for us, it's okay that it worked for you. And I'd love to hear about that in the comments down below, because I think it's nice to share all sorts of views on curriculum so that we can all kind of get a really informed decision when we decide to purchase something and bring it into our home for our families. None of these curriculum, I would say, are like something that I hated. Like, oh, I hated that curriculum. These are just ones they just didn't work for our family. Like, it didn't flow right for us, or it was a learning style we then discovered just wasn't how we learned very well, or it just wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be when I purchased it, or some things we just kind of like moved beyond. So anyway, I'm going to jump into those now. I have more than I thought I was going to have when I was trying to think of this video, but I think that's okay in reflection to see if you like something and like recognize when it's wrong and when it doesn't work, so that you can move on. So anyway, I'm going to jump in. First, this is Saxon Math 2. So a little backstory. My son went to public kindergarten and he is advanced. He was tested as advanced. And so for his first grade year, when I started homeschooling him, I bought Saxon Math 2 because that was definitely where he needed to be. And we didn't have a single hiccup at all with this math program. This math program, I'm sure if you've been in the homeschool community here on YouTube whatsoever for any amount of time, you have seen people love and use Saxon, which is what I saw. I also saw people love and use Saxon, and I looked into a lot the differences between spiral curriculum for math and mastery programs for math. If you're not familiar, a spiral program, the idea behind it is you're introduced to a little bit of a topic, and then you're introduced to another topic and another topic. And at some point you come back to that first topic and you build upon it a little bit and go a little bit more in depth. And then on the next topic that you covered, you go a little bit more in depth, until you come back like a spiral and you keep building. And I thought that that was going to be the most reasonable way to learn for longevity. I was like, oh, well, this way, like, he'll never forget because he keeps coming back to it. But I then read up on the Singapore primary US edition, the one that we've been using now. It's the old school one. It is not the 2020 version or 2022 version. But I thought, wow, those have really good results. They're a little bit more fast paced, and it's a mastery program. So I don't know how that's going to work for us, but I feel like I want to give Singapore a try. When I then introduced level 3 to my son, who never once hiccuped or didn't understand anything from this curriculum, he could not remember half of what we had learned in the Saxon program. And I don't think that's because Saxon is a bad program. I think it's because the spiral approach did not work for my student. There was no retention with it because there was no mastery of it for us. Like I said, people use this from the very beginning and use it through, like all the way through, and like it's their tried and true, and I think that's wonderful. So if this works for you, I believe it, because that's one of the reasons I jumped into it for myself in the first place. Also, I was like, oh my gosh, so many people use this and love it, but did not work for us. The next curriculum I want to share is The Kind Kingdom by the Peaceful Press, and I would like to start with, this is a beautiful curriculum. This is beautiful, and I don't have anything to say other than we quickly found out that the Charlotte Mason, like, just jump right in, Charlotte Mason style of homeschooling does not work for us because my kiddo does not like narration and my kiddo gets exhausted with copy work, and that is such like the foundation of Charlotte Mason method for utilizing the literature, because we love literature-based learning here in our homeschool. That every curriculum that I look for, I make sure that it's a literature-based curriculum. This one was so lovely. This specific one covered English, history, like from Middle Ages and onward a little bit. It has a really, really well thought out schedule that she includes in here. There's projects and reading. This just like, it wasn't practical for us to learn this way with narration and copy work at the basis for learning. I understand why those modalities hold a lot of significance in learning, but it was not something that worked for us. And not even like a writing portion, even when the narration was being dictated to me, it took a little bit of joy out of the learning for my kiddos. And so had we liked the Charlotte Mason method, I would absolutely be sticking with this, and I'd be sticking with Peaceful Press in general. I think they're a beautiful company, and this is really well rounded and thought out. It covers so many things. I would highly recommend this if you're a Charlotte Mason learning type family. We just unfortunately are not. Next is History Quest. I bought this. It had been out for a year, I think, when I bought it, or maybe it was brand new. I can't remember. My son was going into 2nd grade when I purchased this. My son will be going into 5th grade this upcoming school year. I used the schedule laid out in the curriculum. It gives a suggested schedule. Obviously, if something doesn't work for you, you can move things around to make it work for you. But going in with the schedule it suggested, it was so heavy. Even though I wasn't doing a lot of the extra things that you can do to make it work for a more like an older child who can take on a bigger workload. I don't want to say a more advanced child because, again, my kiddo was advanced. This comes with a parent guide, a student guide, and like a reading, the text. Like it's like a text that you read through every week. And I thought it was really cool with the suggested literature lists that it recommends. I thought that the books I saw were really neat and the projects were hands-on and really fun. It was too much work for an elementary school kid, and I think there's other things to focus on in elementary school learning than diving this deeply into history. I just think it took a lot, and this actually reminds me much more of like a middle school history curriculum. So we might use this for middle school. I'm gonna have to read through that text completely before I use this even for middle school though, because when we were learning about ancient Egypt, there was a part in the text that said that actually evidence is showing that the pharaohs did not keep the Hebrews as slaves, or like didn't use slave labor to create the pyramids or to build Egypt in general. I don't know what evidence that is because they didn't cite it, but I question that a lot, the validity of that. And let me just say also, I don't think there's any history text out there that is completely unbiased or has 100% truth every single page. I don't think that you're going to find it anywhere because human beings write history books and you can't help but be biased. That being said, I really question that. And so it makes me question, okay, well, what else may not be as accurate as other sources that I've found that say the opposite. But I also don't think that necessarily it's an altogether bad thing for there to be pauses in curriculum for you to stop and talk with your own family about it and say, was there anything that we read in here that you think contradicts truth that you already know? And what is it and why? And why could someone have come to this truth? And how did we come to our truth? So I'm not writing this off it was a very heavy workload for younger elementary. Even now, using this for an upper elementary, it's not like the content is too heavy. It is like age appropriate. I just mean like the workload of it. So I wouldn't know really how to implement it to make it work for us without losing and missing out on some of the fun that they do try to include in this, while also gaining like those nuggets of history. I don't know. I'd have to see. I know they've since come out with other time chunks. Like I think they have this was early times. I think they have middle times out right now, and I don't know if they have modern times out or not. But anyway, History Quest, it just didn't work out for us during the season that we started using it. Another one that is beloved in so many homeschool families, and I almost feel like I'm creating a target for myself when I say this, Beautiful Feet did not work for us. I was so excited for this. If you watched my family subjects curriculum picks last summer, I included that we had purchased this. It took everything on that list for this curriculum was back ordered, including this booklet, from months and months. So you know it's really loved because everyone was buying it and loving it. The reason I bought this was because I love literature-based programs, and that's what everyone up and down said they have the best book lists in this company, and that people had used especially the history ones, and that teacher guide had really great accompaniment as far as lesson planning and stuff, and that really fell short for me. I should probably say what piece from Beautiful Feet this was. This is the Teaching Character Through Literature course. They have beginner and intermediary, and I had a 4th grader this last year and a kindergartner, and so I didn't want to get like all just beginner books or all just intermediary books. So I picked and chose like half and half from each one of the book lists and ordered them that way. I have to just say, like, we were not blown away by any of the books. Like when I chat with my kids about what their favorite things were that we read this last year, not a single one of these books was on the list. And I don't think the books were bad books. They didn't make a lasting impression. I think that other books, just by the kids naturally coming up with questions to ask during the reading, solidified more of like character flaws or character growth in other stories that we had seen, and like spoke about morals better than even with this lesson plan did it. And most of the lesson in here would be like, okay, so you read this chapter, and then there'd be like one question to ask, and then it would be like write out Matthew 10:39 and memorize it, like all of them. Write out 1 Corinthians this and memorize. Write out and work on memorizing Exodus 20:12. And we already have a Bible, several different things that we incorporate the Bible with and memorization. And I just didn't need that from this. And so it just really fell flat for me. I know so many people love this. I guess when I heard like with lesson plans and discussion questions, I thought it was going to be a little bit more in depth than what this does for me, and I thought it would offer me more as far as leading us through a book when we're supposed to be teaching character than what this did. I don't have anything else to explain besides it just fell flat for me. So I probably won't be buying anything more from Beautiful Feet. Again, I don't think it's a bad company. Again, there's so many homeschooling families that absolutely love Beautiful Feet books or the Beautiful Feet curriculum and their book lists and that sort of thing. And if it has worked for you, that's really awesome. I'm so happy it does, because it's like I said, beloved by so many people. Okay, I'm going to talk about Evan Moore, their workbooks. I have to say, other than geography, I've never used Evan Moore for a like main subject book or curriculum. I've only ever used Evan Moore as like supplementary sorts of curriculum, and some people would even say geography is that too. I bought these in my kiddo's 2nd grade year. This talked a lot about maps and like how to navigate like a city, like when you're talking about like, okay, what is a street, what is a capital, that sort of thing. It just was boring, and it was simply busy work. And this is the Read and Understand Poetry grades 3 to 4. I bought this for my 3rd grader when he was in 3rd grade. And I want to say that The collection of poems in here is really cool. It has poems from people of all different walks of life, and there's like fanciful fun poems and there's some serious poems, and that aspect was awesome. But this just kind of seemed like busy work for us too. The comprehension part of the poems fell flat for me also, and it was just the same thing over and over again. Like, here's a poem, here's a comprehension questions, here's a poem, here's a comprehension questions. It just it was really repetitive, and so I didn't think it worked for us. I also got a theatrical, like, read back and forth and then analyze skits and stuff like that. That one also fell through for us. I also got like a higher ordered thinking one, which was logic pieces, and it just kind of like, for my son, who was the one I was giving him to, he was just kind of like there wasn't a reason to do them other than maybe they're fun, because it didn't really add to our days, but then he didn't have fun doing them. And so I don't see us doing those again. I know a lot of people love this company, and I'm not saying that they're a bad company. Again, they offer so much for so many subjects, and so I'm sure if I went through all of them and like was able to test all of them and had the time to do that, we could probably find something that worked really well for us. The ones I wound up thinking that were going to be like fun, like side pieces for us to do, just didn't really work out for what I wanted them to be. But I know some people really love this company. Again, I can't really speak for like their main subject stuff. I know people use Evan Moore for language arts. I know people use Evan Moore for science, and those are like core subject things. So I don't know how well those work, but as far as supplementary things, it just wasn't our favorite. Another one I'm going to mention here is Blossom&Root Language Arts. I hold such a fond place in my heart for Blossom&Root, because this was our very, very first curriculum I used for my son when we started homeschooling, and it was exactly what I needed it to be in the very beginning. I took him out when, like in kindergarten, so I taught him through first grade, and so I purchased the second grade curriculum, and the book list for the second grade curriculum was fantastic. My son loved it. I wasn't super in love with all the books for level 3. There was a few that have become my son's favorites, and they're really great. This it incorporated the Charlotte Mason method again, and for me, it just started becoming, it was like a little too slow. So you'd read some chapters in your book, and then that week you had, you did have some like poetry work, which we really loved. My son loved the poetry work from this curriculum. You had like a narration journaling page, and then you had a copywork page, and every week you'd learn a little bit of language arts through the copywork piece that was meant to be utilized for that week. And I just didn't think that was robust enough to really give a whole lot of grammar education, and we already weren't doing the journaling, the narration part of it, because again, my kiddo didn't love narration. We didn't know that until using these curriculums. Well, I was learning that as we were using the curriculum, and I finally was like, okay, I'm just not going to buy curriculum that asks you to do this anymore, since this is just not worth it for us to not have this work as often as it doesn't work. And if I was already gonna have to go out and buy more grammar supplementation, then I just didn't see the purpose in continuing to use it when we weren't already using pieces from it before. It was very repetitious. Like, you can expect the exact same things week after week in those two levels. Again, I did not use level 4 and up. It served us in the very beginning when we really needed it, and so I will, like I said, always have a fond place in my heart for that. And it really kind of like held my hand through a lot of learning my kiddo's lifestyle and learning style and how to go about this whole homeschooling journey. But I just needed more from language arts materials than what I was getting through Blossom&Root. Lastly is another math curriculum, and this is the one I feel like I'm most disappointed in not working for us, and I'll explain why. So I shared this in my upcoming curriculum for my kindergartner / first grader last year in my curriculum videos, and I was super excited for this. I knew my daughter would be finishing her kindergarten curriculum for math halfway-ish or so throughout her kindergarten school year. And so I wanted to get on top of making sure we had something in the home so that we could move right on and there wasn't a big break in her math learning. I shopped around a lot for math because math is one of those things where when you're struggling with math and it doesn't make sense to you, it's really, really, really frustrating. I mean, there's other things in life that you can struggle with and you're like, oh, this kind of sucks. Okay, we're going to work through it. But like when math doesn't work for you, it can make you doubt yourself in a lot of ways that like doesn't just have to do with math, if that makes sense. And I don't want that for my kiddos. And that's coming from someone who did a lot of like higher advanced math classes. I took all honors and AP math classes in high school, and I took very advanced math classes in college. And even then, when you know you're in an advanced class and you objectively are doing difficult work, it still sucks when you don't get math. It's not kind of like, oh, well, you know, this paragraph isn't really working, but you did a really great job. And, you know, like, here's how we can build upon that. Math is right or it's wrong. And so it's really hard when you see all, you know, the red marks or whatever color pen you're correcting and whatever. I just didn't want to create a bad relationship with math for my kiddos if I could help it. So this is a newer curriculum. I don't even think that they have fourth grade out, but a lot of people had been using this and really loving it. And they said it was such a great way to learn. And this is going to be as much of a review as I'm going to do on this specific curriculum, which is Math with Confidence by Kate Snow. This is the first grade one. I just don't think I need a whole, I mean, maybe I'll change my mind. But as of right now, this is much of a review as I'm going to be doing on this particular curriculum. So basically, it's like, I hate teaching it. I don't like using that word lightly. I hate teaching this curriculum. There are so many pieces that go along with it that you're responsible for gathering. I know that you can buy like kits that come with a lot of things that you're going to be using, but basically, once you have all of your supplies, and it tells you what supplies you're going to need at the beginning of each lesson and even at the beginning of each like unit, okay? So even when you have all of that and you know you're going to be ready and you actually have the pieces, when you are doing it and it's scripted, you're pulling out one thing, you're teaching with them, and then your student has to stop and wait as you put those things away and you kind of like organize and pull out the other things, and then you lay them out and you teach them, and then you're putting those away and you're pulling out other things. And then there's like a lot of just dead sit and wait time for my kiddo as I'm putting these things together, and there's like these master sheets that you're like setting things out on and you're teaching on, and then you're like also reading from the script, and then there's also like pieces, and then they're like, okay, now hide things, but it's like she just saw me pull them out. I'm not really being able to hide them right now. And then once even the whole lesson is done and you give your kiddo the booklet, they're like, okay, hey, cover this up with a bunch of blocks and then count how many blocks there are. Do this with it, do that with it, like fold this and use it and I'm like, no, wait. There's so many moving parts, and I understand the point to it, right? This curriculum wants your child to see numbers and how to manipulate these numbers in as many ways as possible. They want to see it written out. They want to see it in words, in like Roman numeral form, with counters, on tallies, which I understand, and your curriculum should do that. But I think that there's better ways to do it than like the busyness of this. I really do. And I'm someone who wholeheartedly believes in manipulatives, especially at this age, or at this like learning level, to conceptualize being able to see things and taking things away and adding things. But it was so much moving around, so much like sit and waiting for my kiddo. And it was not a joy to teach. I can see why people like this because it did move pretty gently and slowly, but at the same time, even using all those things, I don't think it was creating this solid, like a really solid foundation for the learning. Technically, this is a mastery program, and then at the end of each week, they tell you how to review after some units and spiral back to what were in other units. It just didn't work for me, but there are so many flip through and review videos of people using this and really loving it, which is why I purchased it in the first place too. So if you're a family who really loves this company and their curriculum, their math curriculum, that's so great. And I'm so happy it works for you, because math is one of those things where I'm like, I just want it to click and I just want it to stick. And that makes me sad that this one didn't work. So I have since moved on to another one. I did want to explain why we were not using this, because I mentioned this in like my update videos and everything. So I wanted to go a little bit more in depth. That's what I have to share with you guys today. If you guys ran into the same issues with any of the curriculum that I mentioned today, please leave that down below. I'd love to chat with you guys about that. If these are like your tried and true and you're like, I'm gung-ho for these and they work for me, like I'd love to hear that too. I hope that the information you guys heard today was a little bit helpful. Everyone's homeschool works differently and is such like a personalized journey, especially if it's being done right. You know, that's one of the main reasons we homeschool our kiddos, is so that we can give as customized of an education as we can give for each kiddo the way that they learn best. So this is not to dog on any of this curriculum. I don't have a fundamental issue with any of these really. I love seeing these videos too, because I love seeing the other side to why something didn't work, because you can think that something, when you hear someone else who's super gung-ho about something, you could think, I can be that excited about that too. I could totally see that working. And then you get to see another side to the curriculum and how people struggle through them. And I think that information can be equally as helpful. So hopefully this was a little bit helpful for you guys. And thanks so much for joining me in this video. I will see you guys next time.